Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This biggest show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Scavengers Reign, Season 1, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, let's pick up with Ozzy, with Chris and her crew. We left off, so it didn't turn out the way I thought it would, because I was like, that look on from Chris when she was looking at Ozzy last episode made me go like, okay, so is she going to blame her? But it's like, no, she just got questions on what did this. Ozzy notices the prints in the ground and it's like, I know what did this and I do not want to run into it again. So once again, there's that conversation about like, well, your pilot most likely would have had like they were supposed to escape with like one of the escape pods and kind of go to a station to kind of get some help. That's the protocol, but maybe they're down here somewhere. It's like, did they actually leave with the pod? And obviously Ozzy's like, maybe she doesn't really know. So if they need to get to the Demeter just as much, because now it's like, that's their only way off of this planet. We don't know how old Barry is, but he is kind of like the runt of the group. He's like the little kid. Like he's got this like childlike wonderment to him. He might be a teenager, whereas the others are like full grown adults. We don't know what his circumstances are. Aside from a line of dialogue we got from Terrence where basically he rides with Chris because like for Terrence is like, I owe Chris. Like she's like, I'll follow her to the ends of the earth. Barry's kind of alone for the ride because they say he grew up in like a very rough environment. What that is, who knows? But I guess that's why he kind of like gets so captivated by beauty. But it seems like he does have like this fixation on stuff, because I don't know if it was like a grenade or whatever it is, like whatever it is that Chris had picked up from their what was left of their ship. Like we saw him at the beginning of the episode, like dismantling it and putting it together. Like his brain might be wired a little differently. Now, whether that's just naturally his brain works like that, or whether it's maybe a byproduct of whatever trauma or pain he went through. But like there is like, he kind of gets caught up in this childlike wonderment where he's almost like Ursula in that regard. Like Ursula sees the beauty in all of this, and he does too, to a reckless degree, because he's just like, oh, I want to take these sounds, because he has a recorder that Terrence gave him as a birthday present. And all he's doing is going around and recording these sounds, and Chris has to constantly reprimand him, because it's like, if you keep acting like this, like he is definitely on the younger side, but it's like, we can't be reckless here. Like Terrence tries to tell him too, but Terrence handles him with kid gloves, where it's like, it's the duality of kind of their parenting style. It's like, she kind of acts, I mean, it's probably more like big bro and big sis, but it probably could be seen as mom and dad. Whereas like mom's a little more stern, dad's a little like, hey, like little more laissez-faire about it, you know? Even to the point Chris has to call Terrence out, because it's like, you're coddling the kid too much. It's like, he needs to toughen up if you're going to survive, you know? It's like, we kind of let him slide by on some occasions. You at least do, but he needs to, not be dead weight. He needs to pull his weight if he's going to be a part of all of this. So, and obviously Ozzy doesn't have too much to say. I mean, she can't really say anything because she's jumping in the middle of a dynamic that she doesn't really understand or know. So it's not really her place to say anything. It is interesting some of the conversations her and Chris have, because Chris is like, I can tell you're terrified about something, but it's like, don't worry, Ozzy, you're safe with us. But Ozzy's like, no one's safe. Like, there is no being safe here. Because she doesn't really want to get into it, because I think it's hard to explain, like, if she was like, yeah, that creature that destroyed your ship is most likely the same one or the same species as the thing that ripped apart my Levi. And it's like, well, they'll be like, oh, a Levi? It's just, isn't that like some mindless worker robot? It's like, yeah, I can't really go into the explanation, but hers was unique. It was becoming more human, more autonomous. Probably like a lot of that's something you don't really want to get into, Because Ozzy is the type of person that's like, right, she kind of, because she also dances around it. She doesn't really talk about the experience at all. She's like, yeah, I kind of got by on my own. It's like, well, you weren't alone for a good chunk, but maybe that's also indicative of Ozzy's life, of like, she's always been on her own. And so it's always, now it's just, I found a companion in Levi, and now I'm on my own again. And now I'm with this group. I mean, the sad thing is, Barry doing what he did had led to trouble. I mean, he ended up messing with some plants, ended up getting like shot with like a splinter or something. not a splinter, but like the plant shot something and it stabbed him. Then later on, he was so busy trying to record something. It was a creature they saw early, but now it was like dissolving and eating another creature. Then it starts raining down acid. Chris doesn't kill it, she wounds it, and then tells Barry he has to handle it, which Barry goes full Cayman and bashes it in with a rock. And it's like, right. Because it's like, right, you started this, you have to be the one to finish it. It's like, understandable why Chris would be so agitated at it, but it's also, once again, it's like, if I'm not forceful with you, if I continue, I'm not going to coddle you like Terrence does, because all that's going to do is make you softer, and you're not going to be ready when the time comes. And so he finishes the thing off. She picks up the recorder and throws it away, you know? But Terrence goes off on his own to get it and ends up getting killed, but well, not even killed, crushed by this. I was hoping Ozzy would be able to get to him in time, but like the way his body was so contorted, I was like, there is probably like the damage is already done. Like even if you manage to cut him free, his body's probably too like crushed and mangled. Like even if you even if you were to lay him out, it's probably a thing of who knows, like his ribs could have punctured a lung or something for all you know, with like how contorted his body was because of that plant life. And that happened because he went looking for Barry's device, and Chris kills him out of mercy because they couldn't do anything for him. It's just like, even if they were to manage to get him out, like it's, once again, too much damage was done. And they do their thing, their competition. And I didn't even talk about this last episode being their thing. They kind of like breathe in really fast, in and out. They're kind of basically whoever passes out first loses. And that's how they ended up always deciding their leaders of each operation. And doing that, I guess, to kind of like do one last thing together, but also probably make him hyperventilate a little bit so that he passes out, so that she can like mercifully kill him without him being awake. And she just, I think, slices his throat. And ultimately, Ozzy ended up grabbing the recorder and tried to give it to Barry, but he ends up smashing it especially when the message he hears is "Happy birthday, kid," and he smashes it because it's like, it's my fault, it's because of me and this stupid child. Like that kid's going to grow up harder now because of it. Which Chris, he comes over and Chris like hugs him. It's just kind of like, you can see once again, Ozzy can't really say anything because it's not like, who am I to judge how anyone's operates and it's just, but it's like that kid is growing up even faster now because he blames himself. It's like, Terrence only died because he was trying to get that from me. He went off on his own because of me. If I wasn't so caught up in this stupid device that he got me, like, it's like, it's my fault. And I think he's going to have a harder edge to him going forward. And the sad thing too is, Ozzy had, and who knows if Terrence would have kept his word. He was very like, oh yeah, sure. But Ozzy was like, before we leave, we need to wake up the people in the Demeter. I mean, it's like understandable because for one, she doesn't know if there's any other survivors. I don't remember if it was this episode or last episode. It might have been this episode where it's like, and they might have talked about it last episode, where like, right, the Demeter, did it crash or did it not? So once again, Ozzy's unaware that there are, like, she knows Cayman's alive inside that thing, but other than that, she doesn't know about Sam and Ursula. But, she had asked him, like, before we leave, we have to wake up everyone in Demeter, because if they're left sleeping, we've seen, like, we haven't gone back since episode, was that, I think that was episode 5, was the last time we checked on the Demeter after, God, I'm blanking on home dude's name, like, because he sadly died like the same episode. But yeah, like the moment he died, like that was the like last bit with the Demeter we had seen when he had left the Demeter. So we already see some of the people that are in the cryopods are dead or dying. Like the longer it sits there alone, so it's like, yeah, we need to wake those people up so they can at least be alive and aware, to kind of have each other's back and not be a sitting meal for any creature that breaks into there. So, but she made that promise with Terrence, and now he's gone. Chris is most likely going to be like, no, we need to get off of it. Like, she probably doesn't want to waste any time, because it's like the more people that are awake, the more likely people will probably try and stop them from leaving, maybe. So that'll probably be an issue. And obviously Barry will most likely, like I said, Terrence might have kept that promise. I don't know. Like I said, he was very like, oh yeah, sure, okay. So that wasn't like a guarantee. And now Barry's going to probably most likely side more with Chris because it's like whatever decision she makes, he'll probably go along with it because it's like, right, I got to trust her leadership because I can't trust myself. I'm the one that got my buddy Terrence killed. So we'll see where all that, how that potentially will play out going forward. I'm sure that also hits Ozzy a little hard too. Like she was desperate to save Terrence because she couldn't save. Well, for one, the person she cares about is still on the Demeter, like in one of those pods, hopefully still alive. But also, she just lost Levi, and it's just that whole like, oh, feeling useless. You can't do anything to help somebody. I think that's what's really, really guts her the most. So. It's just going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I kind of get the feeling like neither Barry nor Chris are going to survive this. They'll probably, maybe not necessarily next episode, but before this is over, I mean, once again, we don't even know who's going to fully survive this. Even Levi's going, but we don't know if Sam, Ursula, Ozzy, or even Cayman will survive this. We'll have to wait to see. But speaking of Sam and Ursula, we pick up on their side of things, and Sam is like so full of energy, and Ursula's almost kind of like, what's up with that? He's like, oh, like you need a rest? Sure. And when they try to like stop and rest, he's very restless. He can't go to sleep, and he keeps scratching his chest. They're like, well, we know that seed thing got planted there, so we didn't see him just kind of like all around like doing stuff. I'm like, because he's like so full of energy, he can't just relax or wait. But then he starts picking up all this like mud and stuff and these utensils, and he starts building stuff in the cave. He's like, oh, I'm like making it so it's like habitable for us to stay tonight. Which even later on, Ursula's like, well, you want to stay here? Which is so ironic because she's the one that was like, oh, he doesn't want to stop and take a beat. He wants to go straight to the Demeter. But now he's like talking about like, oh yeah, like I want to. She's like, well, you want to actually stay here? He's like, oh yeah, this is a beautiful place. The irony is like you were kind of making this point literally last episode, and now it's like, but you could tell something's off with Sam because he's not eating, he's not sleeping, he's not taking a break, and he's just driven almost by instinct because he doesn't even realize what he's really doing. But the moment Ursula sees the cave, it makes her remember the lady from last episode and that creature. And it's like, what's going on with it? Because during the process of him like putting the mud on the walls and doing everything he's doing, I guess it's supposed to be almost like it's meant to insulate the cave, like the thick layers of mud were, I guess, to make the cave more insulated and make it so that it keeps its heat or something. But like during part of the process, he ends up kind of coughing up the seed. So I was like, okay, the old lady did that too. So I'm like, what's going on there? But Ursula looks at this and recognizes the same situation. And ultimately she looks at Sam's chest and he peels back part of his skin. And you see like around his heart, you see this creature kind of wrapped around it. So neither one of them knows what's going on with him. Because that's the thing I just couldn't figure out about that creature last episode. Like, is it controlling that lady? Is it kind of replicating itself by like, oh, I got to spread my seed? But because the moment it was about to attack Sam, it paused because it recognized he had that seed. So I wonder, like, does it replenish the thing that infects you? Like, maybe, like, this lady was dying and the thing is the only thing that keeps you going. I don't know. I mean, that's once again, everything on this planet, we constantly see this theme of the circle of life, of just like one thing acts as food for another thing that births something that kind of fills in the whole cycle, so the question becomes like, did that creature grab the lady trying to replenish the seed inside of her, or was it because she no longer had the seed? When you have the seed inside of you, that means the thing inside of you is still going, and maybe the thing inside Sam is what was also in that older lady, and it constantly produces those. Because it did seem like there was something in her, because she was grabbing her stomach, and then like it was gurgling, and then she spit out the seed. And even before she got hooked back up to that creature, she fell down. Like it seemed like this thing is slowly killing her. Like it chooses, like it's almost like I think it is probably not almost. It probably is a parasite, but. What about that thing that attached to her? Like, does it feed off of that? Does it keep you going? Like, is it kind of a symbiotic relationship where that thing, like, feeds you to keep you going energy-wise so you can feed the thing it's all part of the same process. They are connected. The thing inside of your chest and that thing that was kind of puppeteering her a little bit. Because like I said, she was almost in this trance state. Like after she was disconnected from it. Like I don't know. Does she eventually go back to normal, or now that she's passed on the seed, she's kind of served her purpose, and now she's just pure food for the thing? I said it last episode, and I keep saying it 50 million times this episode. I just don't know what to fully make of that. So, what this means for Sam, does that mean, can they cut that thing off of Sam? I mean, who knows what lasting damage that would have? I mean, it seems like, oh, maybe Sam's going to die. Oh, it seems like he's okay. No, he's back to not being okay because there's some kind of parasitic thing like latched onto him, and it's driving him to be driven by this instinct. Not unless the thing inside of him is a smaller version of the thing that was controlling that lady last episode. So eventually maybe it'll burst out of your chest, but then kind of repair you a little bit, and then you have you scamper along. Like it feels just like that creature that has Cayman inside of it, where it's just like, yeah, it's driven by this instinct to get other stuff to hunt for it, and once again kind of extend its life process. We'll have to wait to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. Maybe we'll get a clearer answer. Maybe not. But I'm interested to see where all this ends up taking us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.